Two HOA guards thought they could push around a quiet homeowner. They had no idea her husband spent over a decade as a Navy SEAL. What happened next changed how that entire community operated. Mara and Dan had just moved into a gated community in search of peace and quiet. Mara worked from home as a freelance designer. Dan, recently retired from military service, was easing into civilian life, quiet, steady, methodical. "I think I'm actually going to like it here," Mara said, unpacking boxes. "It's so calm." "Let's hope it stays that way," Dan smiled. Within weeks, a letter arrived. A violation notice. Their trash bins had been left out 2 hours past the posted time. 2 hours, really? Mara asked, confused. "Welcome to HOA life, I guess," Dan shrugged. "Here's what many homeowners don't realize. Some HOA boards operate with very little oversight." This one had a reputation for strict, sometimes inconsistent enforcement, and residents who pushed back often found themselves facing repeat fines. What the board didn't know was that Dan wasn't just a quiet new neighbor. 12 years of military service had taught him discipline, patience, and how to stay calm under pressure, traits that would matter more than anyone expected. A few months in, the board introduced a new security escort policy, giving gate guards expanded authority to stop and question residents. On paper, it sounded reasonable. In practice, it gave a few guards more power than they knew how to handle. Small fines became a pattern, a planter a few inches too tall, a car parked at the wrong angle. Mara began to feel like she was being watched more than welcomed. "It's like they're waiting for me to mess up," she sighed. One afternoon, Mara pulled up to the gate after running errands. A guard flagged her down over a parking permit mix-up, a simple paperwork issue that should have taken a minute to resolve. "You can't come through until this is sorted," the guard said. "I just need to grab something from inside my own house," Mara replied. What should have been a brief misunderstanding turned physical. As Mara tried to step past the gate arm, the guard grabbed her arm and pinned her against the gate post to stop her from moving forward. "Let go of me," she said, startled. "You need to wait until I say you can go," the guard responded. A neighbor walking her dog nearby saw part of the exchange and quietly pulled out her phone to record, unsure whether to step in, but wanting a record of what was happening. Shaken, Mara called Dan the moment she got free. "Dan, a guard just grabbed me at the gate. I'm okay, but please come home," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm on my way." "Stay where people can see you," he replied, steady and immediate. Dan didn't speed. He didn't panic. Years of training had taught him that a clear head solves problems, anger doesn't. But every second felt longer than the last. When Dan pulled up, Mara was safe, standing near the guard booth, arms crossed, visibly rattled. The guard who'd grabbed her was still there, along with a second guard who'd joined in. "Mara, are you hurt?" Dan asked calmly. "I'm okay, just shaken up," she said. Dan didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He simply asked questions, precise, unhurried, the kind that made it clear he already knew the answers. "Can you tell me exactly what policy allowed you to physically restrain my wife?" he asked the guard. "She wasn't following instructions," the guard hesitated. "That's not what I asked," Dan said. Something shifted in the guard's posture. This wasn't a man they could bluster past. His calm wasn't weakness, it was control. And that unsettled them more than shouting ever could. Dan methodically noted both guards' names and badge numbers, the exact time, and got the neighbor's contact information for a video. No threats, no confrontation, just a clear, calm paper trail. "This isn't about winning an argument," he said, writing notes. "It's about making sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." Once the footage and formal complaint reached the board, an emergency meeting was called. Here's what many homeowners don't realize. A single documented incident, handled calmly and clearly, can carry more weight than a dozen angry emails. The board reversed the security escort policy, reassigned the guards involved, and issued a formal apology to Mara. It wasn't about revenge, it was accountability built on documentation instead of drama. Mara and Dan talked it over that night. "I almost wanted to move after that," Mara admitted. "I get it," Dan said. "But leaving doesn't fix a broken system. Staying and pushing for change does." They decided to stay, and Mara later joined the community's governance committee to help rewrite the rules from the inside. Here's the takeaway. HOA authority isn't unlimited, and residents have more recourse than they often realize. Documentation, calm communication, and knowing your rights matter more than confrontation ever will. This is a work of fiction, shared for illustrative purposes only. It is not legal advice.